There's something unique in this film, which is it has a very theatrical quality to it. There's a sense of that it's actually happening in front of you. And because of that, all across the country, summer camps, high schools, fraternity houses, all began to do their own versions of Newsies. And it actually, even when we didn't have a licensing group at Disney to license shows to schools, Disney lawyers were getting random letters and requests for people who wanted the right to do Newsies. There's no question this was kind of an underdog project, partly because in Hollywood, things have to be instant successes. People have to love it immediately, and the reaction is always based on economics. But in my experience, and frankly the success of Disney Theatrical, when we have been successful, is the first response you have to the material is, do I love it? Will the audience love it? Could it be beautiful? Could it be touching and powerful? And we don't look at things right away by saying, this is economically successful, this has economic power. In my experience working before Disney and in my 24 plus years at Disney, over and over the things that have resonated were things that in the first place most people were not interested in. And that goes back to The Lion King as a film idea. Then The Lion King is a stage idea. Most people didn't think it would work. Most people didn't want to work on the movie. It's quite documented now. When John Lasseter first came to us with Toy Story and had this idea, people discounted it, people didn't think it was going to work, and it had its own life force. And there's something inside Newsies, not to compare it to anything else, where I knew there was a power in it. I knew there was a way that this material could be played if we could just find it that would have a great resonance. And so I think all of us at Disney Theatrical trusted its roots and the response the audience had and didn't really pay attention to the obvious economic formula that could be.
Casting for the show, I thought because of, I know they have to act, I know they have to sing Alan's incredible score, I know, and then they had to dance. I was hoping for just a couple ringers of like, oh, well, maybe I'll get a high kick or a flip or two. And every single boy in our show, every dancer in our show is a star in their own right. And the story that I tell the guys all the time is when I put a double tour in the combination for the audition, which is 2 rotations, jumping and down. When I took ballet class as a young man, our teacher said to me, if you can do a double tour, it's like hitting a high C. He's like, it's the equivalent of a female hitting a high C. And that it just makes you that one little bit more special and a little bit more, and I put it in the combination just to see like who could do it, and just maybe there's a couple guys that can do it in the show. Our entire company of dancers does a double tour of the show. It's like an entire ensemble of a show hitting a high C to me, and that is, it's incredible that can happen on stage with a company that I get to work with. Putting the new Newsies into the show has been fantastic already. There's new DNA with them, and now that they're in the mix, it's opened my mind even more. It's like starting over and going, okay, well now we have these colors in the crayon box. I have this to color with, so let's expand this. We're adding new sections. We're showcasing them in new ways, and also just them being in there with the boys who are returning. There was an instant. Just camaraderie, because I do something the first day where they kind of go through and I let them show I call them fireworks, I let them show their fireworks and like all the little jumps and turns and things that they can do, just so that I know from my kind of eye like what looks good on them. But I think all the boys returning saw that, and like there was an instant just respect, and just we do the combinations in small groups, and they like scream for each other because they know that like they're surrounded by the best boys in the city.
First inkling I had that I can remember, besides my kids saying, "Oh, I love Newsies, I love that," but okay, fine, we all love the family dog too, was going into a mall and looking down. I was on the second level, and looking on the bottom level, and I hear. Dum 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 dum. I said, that's funny. Dum, dum, that sounds familiar. Dum dum. And they're singing, "Now is the time to seize the day." And the kids and people are screaming, and I'm going, whoa. And they go, look at that. There's people who like Newsies. And then you hear, well, there's lots of people who like Newsies. And then kids camps, and we got to do Newsies. And we got to do Newsies. And then I began to realize that it's actual individual pockets of people, if not individuals themselves, for whom this is a secret passion. Yeah. And they think it's just theirs. And then all these dots start to come together, and we all start to realize, well, there's something. First song I believe was Carrying the Banner, with that bum bum ba da bum 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 ba da da dum. So it's probably using sort of a bluesy kind of edge to what was kind of an R&B, almost a rock and roll feel, but it felt turn of the century. And once you establish that DNA, if you can establish it there, then the threads pull out. And that's what we learned after the first reading. That DNA was the DNA that had to run the entire show. Somehow, rock and roll and R&B energy for these boys works for conveying a turn of the century reality.